Hello and thanks for joining me today. I'm DMAC and in today's video we're going to do a review, and that review is on this set, which is the Reaper lockpick set. This was designed by McNally and made by Covert Instruments. Now before we get into this, it's worth saying I'm not sponsored by Covert Instruments. I am not a brand ambassador for them or anyone else for that matter. But companies do send me lockpick sets and other lock sport tools now and again, not with an understanding that I'm going to do a review, favourable or not. But I do like doing reviews, and it's always nice to feature new products. So before we get into this, I'm going to say that with this particular set, I did find that there was a big problem with it. Well, I say that, actually, it's kind of a small problem. But we'll get into that later. First of all, let's have a look at what you get in this kit. So let's have a look at the case that the Reaper set comes with. Now, one of the things I do really like about this is that it comes with its own patch. If you buy the Echelon set or the Genesis set from Covert Instruments, they come with this Velcro on here, but they don't come with the patches. You have to buy those separately. But the Reaper set does come with its own patch, and you can see a couple of picks there. Nice skull motif, McNally's name up there, and the Lock Reaper set with a Covert Instruments logo on it. I think it's a really well made patch. It's nice, and it's like a rubber, and it yeah, it's kind of sort of textured, but I mean, it doesn't really add to the lock picking, but it's a nice aesthetic detail to have on the case, and it means that it looks a bit nicer with the patch than just coming with a sort of random bit of Velcro as the other sets do. Now, I believe the case itself is exactly the same as the Genesis lockpick case. We've got this nice heavy magnet on there. It's not going to fall open at all. You really have to sort of lever it up with your finger to open it up. I will just mention, actually, I don't think I've mentioned it on my other Covert Instruments review videos, that most of their tools come with this QR code. And it says they are instructional videos. So if you scan this, you will find out all about this product or other products they offer. And I think that's really nice to include in the products. Right, so the case itself, exactly the same as the Genesis. It can fold over like this. It can stand up on your desk. But as I said in that review, I find it a little bit unstable. I don't like doing that. I would prefer to have it laid down like this. And now we've got a pocket up the top here, which you can put a variety of things in. But much like the Genesis case, if you put another Covert Instruments pick in there, you won't be able to shut the case properly. I think this bit of stitching here just needs to be moved back a bit. They did change that on the Echelon case. You can fit other picks in the top here, but yeah, it seems this one is the same as the Genesis. It's a little bit of a shame that you can't fit those extra picks in. You can fit them at an angle. What else have we got on the case? We've got two pockets down here. We've got the picks in the back and the tensioners in the front, and we've got a little bit of extra room, so you could get a few more tensioners and certainly a few more picks in there. So now let's have a look at the tools themselves. In the Reaper set, we get 5 different pick profiles. Let's just grab one of them and see what we've got. Now, these are made from 301 high yield stainless steel. That's the actual pick steel itself. The pick steel runs from the tip to the tail, and that's sandwiched with these handles here in this stainless steel brushed finish, which does look nice. The picks themselves are numbered, so this is the number 5. Let me just grab another one there. That's the number 4, 3, 2 and 1. Helps you differentiate between them. We've got the Covert Instruments logo, which is actually cut out along with the 20 thousandths, which indicates, as I said, the actual thickness of the pick steel. That's true on both sides. The handles themselves are a slight step away from a lot of other Covert Instruments handles that use the traditional popsicle stick or lolly stick, depending on which side of the Atlantic you're from. That kind of traditional lockpick design. So we've got a sort of shaped end on both sides. And then we've got this little cutout here. Nice little design detail, and some people might want to rest their finger in there while they're picking. Now, the hooks you get in this set, we've pretty much got a short, medium and deep, although the deep isn't, I'd say it's more of a medium, but you've got the 3 different heights of picks. So you've got a standard flat hook there, I'd say it's a medium flat hook there. And the last one is a higher reach pick, certainly. So, but with those 3 different profiles, you're going to get into a lot of different locks. Certainly something that I like to see in all pick sets, really. Now, whereas a lot of other sets would go for rakes, the other two picks are not quite rakes, and they're not quite picks. I would say they're hybrid picks, and they're very, very similar. So that's number one, and that's number two. The number two profile and the number one profile are very much the same. You've got these like a flat tipped end on it, but we've got this point there on pick number two, which is kind of flat on pick number one. And that can be used kind of like a rake, so it's a hybrid pick. So if you're picking a lock, you can zip or you can rock and rake, and then you can use that tip there to single pin pick. I mean, you can also use it to single pin pick itself, but it's a hybrid pick, so you can use, you know, zipping, raking and single pin picking, which McNally is famous for, and he's got lots of videos showing this particular pick in use. Next, we'll take a look at the top of the keyway tensioners that come in this set, of which we have got three. So we've got 32 thousandths, 40 thousandths and 50 thousandths, and they are obviously different thicknesses to fit in different locks. Generally you want the thickest tensioner you can to fit in a particular lock. If I grab the thickest one here for this 1100, he sits in there really nicely, really snug. If I put the thinner one in, we can still pick with it, but it kind of flops about in there and it can end up chewing the keyway and doing a bit of damage the more you practice. The other thing on these tensioners to help you differentiate is these dots on there. So the 32 thousandths has got one dot, the 40 thousandths has got two dots, and the 50 thousandths has got three dots, and that helps you differentiate. When you've got a bunch of tools and locks on your table and you need the thicker tensioner, you can just look down, see the three dots, which makes you, grab that tool quicker than you otherwise would. Now, these vary slightly from a more traditional top of the keyway tensioner. I've got this one here from the Echelon set, in that you've got that kind of funky design there, which is, it's just aesthetics, but, we all like design, don't we? And the other thing you've got is, let me just show you the tips of these two. Hopefully you can just see there where this sits in the top of the keyway. We've got this little bit here which sticks out, and that gives you just a little more stability, hopefully. I think that's the idea when you're using it, so that your tool is going to be a little bit more stable in there. Next up, we'll have a look at the bottom of the keyway tensioners that come with this set. I say bottom of the keyway, but these are really dual tensioners. So you've got a long return and a short return on these, and the way they generally work is the long return would be a bottom of the keyway tensioner, something like that, and you would tension like this, or you can switch it around so the shorter end goes in the top of the keyway, and we can tension just like that. Now, much like the top of the keyway tensioners, these ones here have got three different thicknesses. Let me just arrange them. So we've got three different thicknesses, which are, again, 32 thousandths, 40 thousandths and 50 thousandths. And we've also got the three dots on there, which is good to see, which can help us, differentiate between our tools when we're reaching for the one that we need. The tools themselves are very slightly different. These ones have got cutaways on it, and the thicker one doesn't have that. The thicker one has serrations, and the other two don't have that. Not really sure of the reason for the design choices there, but I do know that small differences like that can make a big difference when it comes to fitting these tools in locks snugly, and consequently getting the opens. We've also got the Covert Instruments logo on them there. So I think what we'll do now is we'll have a look at these tools in action, picking some locks open. Firstly, let's pick open this master lock number 5, which is a 4-pin lock. And I think with this one, I've got the bottom of the keyway turner there. This is from the Genesis set. I just want to illustrate something. When I put that in the bottom of the keyway, it uses up a lot of the bottom of the keyway. We've got less room for our pick to get in there. And if I swap that out with this one here, which is the sort of the shaped bottom of the keyway tensioner, just because we've got this slight downward angle at the base of it, it does mean that we've got more room for our pick to get in there and pick. So I think that's the idea behind that little kind of funky shape on the end of this one. So let's pop him in. I'm using this hook number 2. I'm not going to do hybrid picking. I'm pretty crap at it, so we're just going to use this one as a sort of standard hook and see if we can't get this little master lock open. There we go, didn't take too long. Next up, we'll try picking this American 1100. I'm going to use the thickest top of the keyway tensioner. I didn't mention earlier actually that the top of the keyway tensioners have got a shallower return on one end and a deeper on the other, and that's because some keyways are deeper recessed from the lock body than others, so it gives you the option to use either end and see which one works best for you. I've got the hook number 5, which is the deepest hook in the set. I do like a deep hook when I'm picking 1100s, so let's see if we can't get this one open. These American 1100s do have spool pins, which are also serrated, and they do have serrated key pins as well. So yeah, it can be a challenge to pick. I'm just looking for a full set, which we haven't got just yet. Oh, just fell. Is that a full set? No, we got the open. Next, we'll try picking this master lock disc padlock. I'm going to use the dual tensioner. Last time we used the long end, this time we'll use the short end. We'll put it in the top of the keyway like that, and I'm going to tension it clockwise with my thumb and pick it with the number 4 hook, which is the medium hook of the set. So I'll put on some quite heavy tension. These are 4-pin locks. They don't have any security pins in them, so I don't think it'll put up too much of a struggle. And there we go, we got that one open. Now, I did say at the beginning of this video that I'd found a big problem with this kit, but it's actually a small problem, and that's that everything is quite small. I find the picks quite small, and I find the tensioners quite small as well. And let me just kind of demonstrate that. If we look at the picks themselves, pick number 1 and pick number 5 are, the pick number 1's quite short, pick number 5 is the longest, and each of the picks progressively gets taller as you kind of go up. And if I just compare pick number 1 and pick number 5, you can see it's quite a considerable difference in the actual picking tip's length, and I'm not really sure of the reason for that. I can't really understand why it's beneficial to have some shorter and some longer. I think that it becomes a problem when you're picking locks that have got, say, this is like a 6-pin Euro, which is pretty standard. And as you're picking that very last pin there, as you can see, if my pick's actually in there, then pin number 1 is being lifted by the thicker section of these picks. So I don't really understand why they wouldn't all be the same length. If I compare it to a pick from the Echelon set, you can see that the shaft of that of the picking tip itself doesn't really, it does kind of taper down as we go towards the tip, but I can easily reach that pin number 6 without kind of worrying about oversetting pin number 1. So it does make me think that perhaps these picks are designed for locks like master locks, which only have 4 pins, so the picks themselves don't need to go all the way in. I mean, if I compare these two, I do find that the Covert Instruments picks, I do find they're on the smaller side from me. They're not particularly small, they're the same size handles and picking tips as Southall and Multi-Pick and a variety of other manufacturers. It's a pretty standard pick, but I do happen to have massive hands. But if I compare that pick to pick number 1 from this Reaper set, you can see I think it's actually a considerable difference in length. So the Echelon pick is 4 centimeters, and the Reaper pick number 1 is 3 centimeters. I mean, that's like a quarter of the length, and I really noticed that when I was practicing with this lockpick set. I did find that some of these picks were quite small. The other thing I find is that if I'm holding a pick that is a little bit short, I hold it sort of somewhat like that, and I can just read that the back of the pick rests on my index finger like that. But because of the shape of these picks, which I do really like, I've got to say, it does mean that when I'm holding it, the picks tend to sort of slip out of my grip a little bit like that. I mean, if I just compare this set here with a longer pick, this one is a Jimmy Long's pick, as you can see, massive difference between the two. If I compare it to the longest picks I know of, which is the Moki picks, you can see there's just a massive difference in the handle. which for me with big hands gives me more stability. But there's also a massive difference in the length of the picking tip, which means it's kind of harder to reach those back pins. Now, for me, having the large hands, that's a problem with the picking, with the picks themselves, but I also find it with the tensioners. So if I go back to the Echelon set tensioner there, which is the top of the keyway, and I put it in this 1100, I'd hold it something like that. And with my long index finger, I'm still able to, put my finger on the tip of it. But if I reach for one of these Reaper top of the keyway tensioners, if I can pick it up, if I pop him in like that, you can see the tip of my finger no longer reaches to the end of the top of the keyway. The only way I can comfortably hold it is to bend my index finger, and that can lead to sort of cramps. So I'm not sure why they weren't just a little bit longer to accommodate us fellas with larger hands. Let's have a look at these ones here, because I find the same problem with these. If I use this as the top of the keyway, it's not so bad if I'm using it with my thumb, but even so it sits quite low down on my thumb. But if I switch it over to the bottom of the keyway, pop it in like that, and I'd grip the padlock, you can see it's nowhere near the tip of my finger. If I compare that to these tensioners, which are from the Genesis set, I think I grabbed one that was too thick, and just grab a thinner one, pop that in the bottom of the keyway, and even with my long fingers you can see that I'm holding that tensioner quite comfortably. My finger's nice and straight, it's a comfortable picking position. And compare that to these Reapers, they're just really short. As I say, I do have large hands. Let me just give you an indication. These picks here are about the same length as my ring finger. So they do get, the handles get a little bit lost in my hands. But yeah, suddenly I sort of run out of length of the picking tips as well. Not a problem for someone who has small hands or medium hands, but yeah, if you've got hands like mine, it's a little bit of a struggle to use. Right, in conclusion, what do I think of the Reaper lockpick set from Covert Instruments? Well, as you can imagine, it is a little bit of a mixed bag from me. We've got some really high quality tools in here, high quality steel used. They retail at $55, which is 42 English pounds, which I think is, really good for a set like this. We've got 5 different hooks. We've got hybrid picks, short, medium, and almost a deep hook, which is great to see from all lockpicking sets. And we've got a variety of tensioners, and also we've got some really innovative designs in this. I really like the return on this one. I've not seen that on any other lockpicks before, so yeah, great to see. But for me, it's just too small to use. I tend to road test any products that I'm given for a period of weeks prior to doing a review. And I've picked a lot of locks with this set. I've sat at my desk, I've picked locks in front of the telly, and I just find that over time my hands kind of cramp up. It all feels a little bit too small. So it's a real shame that these aren't just, 10%, 20% bigger, because I perhaps wouldn't have felt that way around about them. The other thing I did notice, it is a bit of a negative, is that pretty much all of the tensioners are really quite sharp. And when you're using metal tools and putting tension on them, pressing down with your fingers, over a period of time you do notice that. Now, I've not noticed that sharpness with any other products from Covert Instruments. I don't know if it's just this particular set or the Reapers, I don't know. But yeah, if I sort of scrape that on my thumb there, you can just see my nail kind of flaking away a little bit. And you can imagine how that kind of feels on your skin. So yeah, that kind of lets it down a little bit as well. I really wanted to like this set. I think it looks great. I think if you've got small hands, it's going to be great for you. If you've got large hands, I would probably veer towards the Echelon or Genesis, or some, perhaps larger picks from other manufacturers. Anyway, I'd be really interested to know what you think of this set. So do leave a comment down below. Let me know how you've found it. And as always, I'll leave a DMAC logo up there to subscribe. I do reviews like this fairly often, so you can always come back and see other products reviewed. Anyway, thanks for watching today, and I will see you on the next one.